In this video, we're learning how to make decisions in JavaScript using if, else if, and else statements. These help your program choose what to do based on conditions. So we're going to discuss conditionals or dive a little bit deeper than we have in prior videos. Now I have examples here in Visual Studio Code that are going to display in the console, and then I want to go ahead and talk about those examples. So the first one I want to discuss is a pretty basic one. Here we have a variable assigned to a value of 18, and that variable is named age. That's the name we've given it. And then we have a conditional, just a standard if statement, and we say if followed in parentheses by the requirement of what condition needs to be met. We say if the age is over 18 or equal to 18, then go ahead and console.log you are an adult. And since the age is 18, and that's equal to age of 18, we see that in the console. Now if we didn't put that of greater than 18, then we're not going to see it. And so that's just a standard conditional. And with an if statement, this is just the entry to conditionals. It's just allowing you to run some code if a condition is met. And so that's that first example. Now with the next example, we're getting into a bit more of options, you can say, with conditionals. And here we're saying we're using both if and else. Sometimes you might want to run some other code if the condition is not met or the condition is false. And in that case, you're going to use else. And so here we have the same thing, an age of 16 in this case. If the age is greater than or equal to 18, we say you're an adult. Otherwise, we're going to say you are a minor. And since 16 is less than 18 and not equal to, we're going to go ahead and put you are a minor in the console. So you can expand from just a regular if to also give a condition if the truth value is not met. If the truth condition is not met, we're going to do else. And so that is another conditional. As we keep moving forward, we've got some more complex ones. Now here is when you can have more than one choice for meeting a requirement, and then you still have if all else fails, use this. If all the conditions aren't true, aren't met, then go ahead and use this final value. So to do that, we're using if and we're still using else, but now we are all of a sudden using else if. Else if allows you to check for multiple conditions. So there's more than one right answer, you can say. And in this case, we're creating a variable with a score of 75, such as a student's grade, and we're saying, hey, if the score is greater than or equal to 90, then console.log grade A. Since that condition's not met, we're going to hop to the next one. Else if, so when you want to have more than one condition that's potentially true, you want to use else if. And so if that isn't the case, if the score is greater than or equal to 70, then go ahead and give a grade of B. Or we can let's actually fix that. We can actually say a grade of C, at least in my school. We can say grade of C greater than or equal to 70. And then we can have, if grade is greater than or equal to 50, this class we've gone ahead and just done a C, and then else a grade of F. So here we can say multiple things. So we have if the score is 90, give back a grade of A. If the score is 70, we're being pretty lenient here. We're going to say give the grade a B. And then else, if the score is above a 50, which would be failing normally, but we're going to go ahead and just say grade of C in this case. Else, give back a grade of F. And so here we see that the grade of B, because 75 is greater than or equal to 70. And so that is conditionals with multiple conditions. Now the next example we have, and we can dive right into this, is when you want to nest if conditionals. So you can also nest statements within one another, and that's the case here. So not only do you have if conditional statements and if else and if else if and else conditional statements, you can also do nesting. And with nesting, we have an example here where we have both the age and also the ID. So in this example, we are trying to get back if they're at the right age and they have an ID, then they're allowed entry into the concert. And so we can go ahead and see that here. So we have two variables, has ID and age, and we'll see that if the age is greater than or equal to 18, then hop to the next conditional within the conditional, and we see that if they have an ID, then console.log entry allowed. Otherwise, they'll need to show their ID. And so in this case, if we switched has ID to false, we are going to see show your ID in the console. And so we're going to switch that to true. Now, and then lastly, if all else fails, we're going to say entry denied. So, and that's going to happen if the age isn't correct. So even though we might have an ID, that's true, but we're 15 years of age, entry's denied. So no matter what, even if you have an ID or not, you're not at the right age. So we don't even have to hop to this conditional. We're just hopping straight to the else. Okay. And next, I have a bit more robust example that I want to dive into to tie this all together. This is more going to be a practical example. So a lot of practice, sometimes you'll do it conditionals, you understand it, but you don't understand how to use it in practice. And so here's a bit more of a practical example that I wanted to show of the concept. Let's say you have a website and you want to provide a discount to a customer based on how much they have added to their cart. And so this is that example here. We are essentially saying, hey, this is your cart total of $120, and we also have a variable of a discount. So we're creating those variables at the start, and then we have some conditionals of how much discount we're going to apply. So at the start, there's no discount applied, but based on some certain conditionals, we are then going to update this discount variable. And so here we're seeing all of this tie together. So we're using ifs, else ifs, and else. So no nesting, just else ifs and ifs and else to put this all together. So we're saying if you have purchased over $200 of products, then you get a 20% discount. We are assigning the variable, instead of 0, we're now assigning it to 20. That's not the case. We have $120 in the cart, so we're not getting a 20% discount. If your cart, we'll hop to the next one, and if the cart is over 100 or equal to 100, you're going to get a 10% discount. In that case, we do have over 100, and so we're going to get that 10% discount, and then we're going to have this run at the end. But we can just keep hopping through before we get to that. And then we can tie it all together. Else if the cart is greater than or equal to 50, you'll get a 5%, and then all else fails, you're not going to get a discount. Now, since in this case we are over 100, we're going to get a 10% discount. So great for us. Now here is where the magic happens. So we have a new variable, discounted total, that's going to take the cart total, 120, and then subtract that discount. So we're applying the discount here, and then we're showcasing that discount in the console. Now, if this was a website in a real implementation, you're going to have a bit more JavaScript programming to make this actually work. This is just, just a simple example to get things going, to, give you ideas of how to make this happen. But essentially, we're doing that. We have the logic for if and a conditional is met, then apply a discount. And then instead of the final logic of making that happen, we're just console.logging it to our console here.